Hi, I'm Dr. Gary Sprouse, the Less Stress Doc, and I want to welcome you to the Happiness Highway. This is our podcast where I'm trying to figure out how to get you in your happy place and live there forever. And then we're trying to get rid of the stuff that's keeping you from your happy place.
Drive on Happiness Highway.
And so today, I'm super excited. We have Dr. Brian Altman who's going to be with us today. And he is a PhD from California. He grew up in Boston, so you're going to hear his accent from Boston, but he's in California, right? And he is involved in a study about adverse childhood events. And he is the treatment solution director for that entity that's out in California, works with Kaiser, right? Get this, he's written 14 books, and his 15th book is getting ready to come out. And I've had the pleasure of reading at least one of them, and it's awesome. And now he's also got this new thing that he's bringing out. It's an app, and it's called Enlightn. And it's to help people get through their life and have less stress. This is awesome. So I had a conversation with him the other day, and we were like on the same page, and it's like, that's why I'm so excited to have him come and talk to you guys. Brian, thank you for coming. This is awesome.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Gary. It's so wonderful to be with you. I love the happy place imagery, metaphor you have, because that's an inner experience, is to have that happy place. So we speak the same language.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about your app. I was going through this last night, and it's I got the impression that there is some like hypnosis involved, and there's some, but it's all very individualized, and it's real easy. It's pretty straightforward.
Right. So Gary, it's an overnight success after 30 years. I'll tell you that. Dr. Folletti and I have been collaborating on this app. It's based on the treatment solutions as well as the assessment. So it's assessment, treatment that we have learned literally from millions of people that have taken the ACE study, gone through health appraisal at Kaiser, 50,000 people a year. And we've been seeing patients together, family members, training doctors, therapists, group facilitators. So the app is the best of all of the treatment solutions, as well as the assessments, because we added a positive childhood experiences assessment, 11 questions, just like the adverse childhood experiences assessment is now 11 questions. The app is all about, okay, 2 minutes a day for you, Gary, get to your happy place. Practice your self-care skills so that you can resolve the underlying issues, not just the superficial everyday stresses, those, and also the causes, the family, the work, all the health issues, things that people really go through. So this app isn't like the other mental health apps of painting your car a different color so it runs better. This actually gets to the engine, the transmission, wheels, the tires, the whole you, the holistic approach.
My audience needs to understand, when you say ACE, tell us what that means.
Okay. ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. So we all know we're products of our upbringings, products of our parents, products of our environment. So from birth to 18, what experiences did we have? Was there mental health issues? Was there alcohol issues? Was there suicide? Was there sexual abuse? What experiences did you go through? And the first 10 questions ask specific questions about things like that, yes or no answers. It takes 2 minutes to answer the ACE questions. And then we've added an 11th question that I mentioned earlier, which is if we didn't hit any of your traumas or stresses or difficulties in those 10 most popular traumas that tens of thousands of people shared with us, here's an 11th question, which is, hey, is there anything we didn't ask you that you went through that was difficult, stressful, traumatic? And then you get to share that. And then the whole app is about getting you to the personalized approaches to resolve the underlying issues and help you in your daily life.
In your study, if I remember right, if you had a score of 2 or 3 or 4, that had an implication to what you were like as an adult.
If you have a score of 1, you're more likely to have mental health issues, emotional issues, and certain physical issues relating to cardiovascular problems, cancer, autoimmune diseases. So it doesn't have to be a 2 or 3 or 4 or 10. It can be a 1, and to the point about the 11th question, it can be a 0. I actually had a medical doctor take it last week from Kaiser and said, I got a 0. I don't think I had any stress or trauma. And then I asked him the 11th question. Is there anything that we didn't ask you on there that you've been through? Oh, goodness gracious. when we moved and my pet got killed, and, he had like 5 extra aces, but it wasn't in the most popular first 10. So whether you have a 0, 1, or more, it's going to impact your medical health and mental health. Now it's in 120 countries. So we have millions of people that have gone through this, the assessments, the biopsychosocial assessment, which is a 10-page assessment. So yeah, we do the assessments and the treatment. And, we know, Gary, all of us are affected by the people around us. We're social animals. We're, emotionally driven people. When we love people and they're hurting, we hurt. When we love people and they're doing great, we feel better. So it's what's going on inside, but with respect to the impact that other people have had on us, especially as kids.
So I just want to make sure the audience hears this. It's like what he's saying is that things that happen to us as kids not only affect us as kids, but as adults, it affects us significantly, not just mentally, like not just depression, anxiety. It affects us physically too, because it affects autoimmune diseases, it affects blood pressure, affects diabetes, it affects pain. Like all these things are affected by the stuff that happened to us in childhood. So that's an amazing statistic. And I think what I read when I was doing this was that even doctors underestimate how much effect there is from things that happen to us as kids.
And it's not just the quality of life, it's longevity. It can take 19 years off of a person's life. This is science. And again, it's untreated adverse childhood experiences. It's unresolved adverse childhood experiences, because we've all had them. We've all had stress. We've all experienced trauma. Do we resolve it? Do we work on it? Do we get that Enlightn app and get to the underlying issues and resolve them? So yes, we've been through a lot. And then what do we do about it? Do we drink, smoke, overeat, gamble, do whatever we do with our self-medicating, which are attempts to resolve things, but they do for a little bit and then it makes things worse and it causes other problems. If we actually do the healing, resolving of our adverse life experience, whether it's through adulthood, loss of a job, loss of a loved one, or childhood or teens, do you work on it? Do you resolve it? Do you get to the underlying issues and resolve them? Because that's the game changer for quality of life and, as I just mentioned, longevity.
Here's a question I had. So I was filling out my Enlightn thing and I did my 11, right? But then the second part was, tell us about your positive childhood events. How does that influence the statistics on the adverse ones?
It's very interesting, because I think we all have had a good teacher, a good coach, maybe a good parent, maybe a grandparent, some mentor, somebody that was really good to us. So there's 11 positive childhood experiences questions where you get who supported you, who was there for you, who helped take care of you, who could you go to emotionally, who would physically make you feel better. So you answer those and you get a positive childhood experiences score, again, from 0 to 10. And you end up utilizing in the app your positive experiences to help you deal with your adverse experiences.
I know the statistics that you mentioned on the adverse. If you have positive ones, does that positively influence your physical and mental?
Definitely. Quality of life, mental health, physical health, longevity, as long as you know how to utilize the positive, because you know how it is. When we go through something negatively, it really impacts us a lot, usually for years and decades, especially if it isn't healed and resolved. Positive experiences help, but the negatives tend to stand out. So we need to utilize the positives to help us with the adverse, to help us with the negative. So there's inner work to do there. It does help, it does make a difference, and it can help even more when we know how to apply the positive to the negative. Because when we get negative experiences and traumas, they just own us. We just get so obsessed and ruminate and just wish it never happened, and why me? And even if we repress it and it goes to our backs, our stomachs, our heads, and we have all these medical problems, these things have to be resolved. And yes, the positive experiences do help the adverse, as long as you know how to do that. It's actually inner healing, inner work, that allows you to benefit from those great people in your life too.
Let me ask you this question. Like, when you say resolve, what does that mean? What does that mean when you say, hey, I'm going to resolve this problem? Because I think that word gets used a lot, but I'm not sure I understand what that means.
So resolve means, if you get to the finish line of it, to see yourself with different eyes, to develop more self-acceptance, actually unconditional self-acceptance. It starts with awareness. Okay, I've been through a lot. I probably need to deal with it. Okay, I'm aware of it. I see I have an ACE score of 1 or 3 or whatever it is. Okay, then I have to work on being accepting of that happened to me. And even if we have to accept that we can't accept it, we have to get to a place with acceptance, because acceptance opens the mind. Judgment closes the mind. So we're aware now, we're learning skills of acceptance, whether it's journaling or talking with another person or working out. We have to have a catharsis, we have to have a release, we have to empty out, because emotions go into the body and the body becomes the place we repress them, and that's why we have all the medical problems that come up. It's repressed, unfinished business. So after we go through the catharsis, and very counterintuitively we learned, people also have to be judgmental and be aware and accepting and express their self-judgment, the judgment of other people, the people that wrong them, the people that hurt them. Judgment has to come out. It's not all about, oh, just get over it, oh, just forgive them. No, 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 no. You have to be aware, accepting, and express and release it. Again, journaling, walking, talking, whether you need therapy, whether you need somebody in your family, in the community. We have to express. And then finally, the resolving comes after those 4 steps. And that's the, wow, how can I take better care of myself than I ever have before? I do feel more deserving now that I've been through awareness and acceptance and let go and emptied out. And I've even released the judgment, which I've been holding in for so long. People told me I shouldn't be judgmental, and yet I still was. So now I'm accepting of that, and I expressed it. And the resolutions come from that happy place, as you call it, that inner wisdom, that inner doctor, that inner wise woman, that inner wise man. It bubbles up from inside ourselves. I call it the unconscious mind. The unconscious, the innermost you, is where we always find our best answers. And that's where the resolutions come to us like epiphanies after we go through our process.
One of the techniques that you used was very counterintuitive. And you talked about riptide. So explain that a little bit more, because I thought it was brilliant, but it's very counterintuitive. And you're like, wait, what? Like, how do I do that?
So many solutions that really help, so many resolutions are counterintuitive, paradoxical, because most of us, when we have stress, trauma of any kind, and as I said, I've had it, Dr. Fletty's had it, we talk about our own ACEs, our own traumas, our tendency is to repress them or fight them or not want to deal with them. And this is almost everybody. That's why all of the addictions and the self-medicating are so popular, that we really don't want to deal with them. We don't want to. However, from the moment we decide, okay, I am going to work on myself. I'm going to develop my skills, my self-care of acceptance with awareness and my letting go and even my judgment. From that moment, we get our toe in the door with our inner doctor, inner wisdom, and even our resolutions. So we already start to feel better right away. And then the more we work on ourselves, we feel better and better, more and more progress. So like fighting a riptide in the ocean or anywhere you're swimming, if you fight it, you're actually going to get exhausted and potentially drown. Well, that's what it's like emotionally and with trauma. You fight it, you can actually drown in your traumas and your difficulties and your stress. However, as you said, Gary, with the techniques in the app, when you learn to be aware, accepting, let go, and get to that relaxing in the middle of a riptide, in the middle of a traumatic experience, in the middle of a stressful situation, going through your own process, you'll relax, you'll be more at ease. Next thing you know, you're coming out to the side of the rip current, able to get in, swim and walk in. You're able to not waste your energy trying to fight it, get rid of it, stop it. You're there, stuck in the trauma, you're stuck in stress, no sense fighting it. That's where you are, accept it. Best ways to deal with it, clearly, is to get to a place, and now this takes some inner work, get to a place where you can be more relaxed, and you'll come right out of it within minutes and feel really good, and you made it. And you might have to do this every time you get in a rip tide or rip current, every time you get into stress, every time you get into trauma. Yeah, you might have to take a minute or a few seconds or a few minutes for yourself, and you'll come out of it and you'll feel better.
See, that's cool, yeah. So now there's one other thing. So I was reading in one of your book, The Voice. I've always talked about deep breathing exercises. And one of the things that I learned about deep breathing was that it actually sets off a relaxation response. When you take a deep breath, it's a relaxation response. But you actually talked about not just inhaling and exhaling. You talked about there's these other two parts. And I'm like, wait, what other two parts? So tell us about the other two parts.
You know, I learned a lot about breath work and meditation and guided imagery and mindfulness and self-hypnosis teaching in India, because I was invited there because my book became popular amongst the gurus in the ashram. So I actually, like, Gary, when you travel, you learn more than you teach. And breath work is absolutely a gift. And there are exact techniques. I actually took weeks of training, believe it or not. So it's not just inhale, exhale. If you're stressed or you're angry, you're frustrated, or things are going bad, you're just like in the worst mood, and someone says, just take a deep breath. Well, first of all, that's really annoying when they say that. And then you go, and that doesn't really help. And they do it again. Well, you know what? I actually feel worse. Can you give me a break here? So that's a good idea, but there are wonderful techniques. For example, there, as you pointed out, Gary, there's an inhale, and before you exhale, there's a turning point. Little gap, little space, might be a millisecond. You can hold it, make it a few moments. Then there's an exhale, of course, and usually let go in the exhales. At the end of the exhale, before you inhale, there's a second turning point, a little gap before you inhale. Now you can hold those turning points for 2 or 3 moments. In those moments, you will feel much more relaxed than usual. Very surprising. So it's awareness, it's acceptance, it's breath work, and there are so many wonderful techniques. In fact, one of my favorites that's in the app is something that if people have ever meditated, I know only 15% of people meditate. If people ever use mindfulness, I know probably a little bit more practice mindfulness nowadays. If you've ever tried self-hypnosis, you know what it's like to get into a relaxed state. Athletes do it all the time. When you're exhaling, now the good news is everybody watching your podcast, you and me too, are all exhaling. My teacher, Milton Erickson, who you and I both know, I spent 4 years with him. Somebody said to him, how do you stay alive? You were supposed to die as a teenager of polio, and now you're 75 years old. How did you do it? And he said, I just kept breathing.
Yeah, that helps, right? Yeah.
So on your exhales, if you want to meditate, you want to practice mindfulness, you want to practice self-hypnosis, you want a glimpse into what you learn in the Enlightn app, say your own name to yourself on your exhales. So just do this as I continue explaining it. So you're saying your name on your exhales. You might say your first name. You might say your first and last name, just to be creative and try it out. You might say your first, middle, and last name on your exhales. That could be fun. You could say your nickname. Yeah, you could have some fun. I know you have a dog, Gary. You could say your dog's name. You can say any name you want, your wife's name. Practice with your own name on your exhales, and you'll see within 2 or 3 breaths, you'll be more relaxed. And by the way, if you practice this for 5 minutes, you'll be as deep as you've ever gone into meditation or mindfulness or self-hypnosis or even prayer. Very simple. And yes, I'm saving you a trip to India right now. So just think of the cost savings, right?
So this app, Enlightn, it's brand new, right? It just came out in August. Tell the audience, how can they get this app?
Right, everybody can get the app. It's on the App Store, it's on Google Play. Your employer has to get it as a benefit for all the employees. Your healthcare provider like Kaiser or Blue Cross or whoever carries your healthcare, they have to get it for you as a benefit, so you'll get it for free. They just have to access it for you as they are your employer or they are your doctor. So they'll get it for you, and then you just log on with your email. Next thing you know, It's talking to you, Gary. It has your PC, positive childhood experiences, your AC, your adverse childhood. It has all your stress levels, keeps track of, okay, on Tuesdays I do better than Fridays, or last month I did better than this month. And there's all kinds of ways to sort of get yourself improving and check yourself out, because you'll be very pleasantly surprised to see when you're practicing with the self-care techniques how much better you're getting with your medical health, your mental health right away.
Well, so this has been freaking awesome. I'm thinking we could go on for another couple of days, but we got to end now. So if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Okay, well, you can go to truesage.com. That's the company for the app, TRUESAGE, just like the words truesage.com. As you did, Gary, you can Google Dr. Brian Alman, ALMAN. You can connect with me directly. You can get to the app, you can get to some samples, get your employer and healthcare provider on it. And we want to help the whole world, starting in the United States, to help people with their mental health and medical health, what we call biopsychosocial health, with our assessments, with our treatment solutions. So please reach out, and you will definitely hear from me, from my team. I have a great team, of course, right away.
Brian, thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been awesome, and I'm going to ask you to come back again sometime so we can go into more detail, right?
I will do it.
That would be incredible, right? So I want to thank everybody for watching today's episode. If you get a chance, get my book, Highway to Your Happy Place, A Roadmap to Less Stress, or my new book, A Mindset Matters, and come back in 2 weeks, and we'll be on the happiness highway, and we're going to find other ways to get you in your happy place and other ways to get rid of the stresses that are keeping you from the happy place. Subscribe, check us out, tell your friends, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. See you later, Brian. Thank you.
Hey, Gary. Thanks a million.
Try